Hello everyone, Kenti Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are taking a little bit of a turn today. We're revisiting a game which I feel kind of has a bad rap. And you see on the screen here, No Man's Sky. So this one started out with, I think it was more media hype than anything else. I never saw anything from Hello Games, which is who made this game. Um, British company. I never saw anything from them which I felt was inherently misleading, but the media really did hype this game up as it was just going to be the bestest, neatest thing since sliced bread, and I don't want to say the game disappointed, but it didn't meet up to the hype, and because it didn't meet up to the hype, which is to say created hype, media created hype, then it got a really bad reputation for that. So I played through it, and I actually had a lot of fun. It's an adventure game. Okay, the goals are very simple, but anyway, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but we're going to play some of this today. Um, so let me talk a little bit about where the game is now. You see on the screen here, Atlas Rises. This is the third major revision. If you look down there at the bottom of the screen, the Foundation update was the first one, which added in base building. So you could literally build a base. Kind of neat thing. One of the other aspects that it added in was freighters. Freighters was, I think, a really cool addition to the game. The freighter at the time had an incredible inventory. So it had stackability of items which you did not have before. You had a bit of stackability in your ship, but not a whole lot. The freighter ended up being twice the stackability that you had in your ship, so ultimately twice the cargo capacity. Now the interesting thing about the freighters was whatever inventory you bought it with was what you had. There was no way to update it, and that appears to still be the same in the game today. Pathfinder. Well, Pathfinder very simply added vehicles. So it added a couple vehicles to the planet, 3 of them. There's a hovercraft and then 2 wheeled vehicles, a very large one called the Colossus. The one that you see there in the Pathfinder update icon thing there is the Nomad. Kind of a dune buggy kind of a thing. Atlas Rises. Now, I am just playing the game again, so I'm still learning what all this is, but it basically adds missions into the game. So you literally have like little quests that you can go and do, and getting to those, knowing where to go to get them, has been a challenge so far for me, but I am still learning. So I played through the game, in fact, before the Foundation update, so I was still playing 1.1 something at the time, and I had a lot of fun. I admit I found the end of the game to be a bit of a letdown, so my guess is that has not changed very much, but the adventure portion of the game, which is really the core elements really of the game, it's I don't want to call it a totally brainless game, but it is a game that you can just immerse yourself into. There's not a whole lot of complexity. It is reasonably goal-oriented. When you are building components or anything like that, you do have to go out and find your resources. You do have to protect yourself. And so very, very goal-oriented as it was from the very beginning. Just as part of the adventure. So you are a lone explorer out in the universe, and you are not only trying to survive, but everything else. So Atlas Rises, adding kind of missions, as they're called in the game, to everything. Now, this game is not infinitely moddable, and what I mean by that is that you have to be very selective on the mods that you use. So let me pull in another window here, and I'll show you a little bit about, I know this is really hard to see because I'm running UHD on the monitor. So it's called the Exocraft Scanner Boost, and I will get into what some of these are. The Spaceship HUD Revamp. This is a cosmetic change only. Dismantle core components, and I'll get more into that when we put the big ones up on the screen. Commoner, not really a word for whoever produced this. Sorry about that, I gotta criticize you, but more common is the correct grammatic way to say that. Anyway, coming from an OCD engineer, huh? So commoner rare creatures. Why did I put this mod on? Well, if you've ever played this game, one of the goals is to seek out all of the life forms, all of the fauna, on a planet. Now, it might be 8, it might be 10 unique species, it might be 12. I've never seen more than 12, but anyway, I can very consistently get to, if there's 8, I have 7. If there's 10, I have 9. And it's just frustrating as all get out to not be able to find that little one. And I set myself a timer, if you will. When I hit the 4-hour mark on a planet and I have not found that last subspecies, it is time to go. You're gonna have to, if you find this game interesting, you just have to design yourself a set of parameters to say, this is where I call it good, and move on. Now, the ultimate goal here is, and I'll show you some of these, the ultimate goal here is to get 10 planets with all life forms discovered, which is to say all fauna discovered, all fauna species discovered. And that's not very hard to do when you consider the sheer number of planets in this game. So as you do the loading screen, you just see a bazillion stars on the screen. If you keep in mind that you could have anywhere from 2 to 6 planets in any one of those solar systems, and there are billions of solar systems that you can go to. So if you calculate that all out, there's like 16 quintillion planets available or something like that within the scope of the game. So if every person on the planet were to play this game, which of course is not very realistic in and of itself, then we would take like 2.5 years to discover all the different planets that are within the scope of this game. So as far as the territory for discovery, it is infinite. And I'm not using that word lightly. Infinite, obviously, is a pretty damn big word. So anyway, common or rare creatures there. Transfer freight to and from freighter. So one of the I thought frustrating things that was again introduced in the Foundation update was the freighters thing. Now, if you are on the freighter, then you go and talk to your captain, and you can transfer cargo from the freighter to either your exosuit inventory or your ship inventory. There was no other way to do that. What I've noticed is if you're on the freighter, as in you are parked in the hangar bay on the freighter, one of the hangar bays, then you can transfer freight in and out. You don't have to go and talk to the captain anymore. You can if you want to, but so this mod, I never successfully used it. I kind of stopped playing the game and got into some other gameplay. So I never actually got to use this mod. So this is the Atlas Rises update for this particular mod. So transfer freight to and from freighters. So supposedly when you're on a planet surface and your freighter is in orbit, then you can actually access the freight, the cargo that you have in your freighter from the ground. So this will be an interesting thing. I want to see if it actually works. Solid traders. Solid traders, if you have played this game, then you know the galactic trade system. Now, just by its very nature, in my opinion, a galactic trade system should have, how do I say it, a shit ton of materials available. I mean, just hundreds and hundreds of items available. This is galactic. So when you walk up to your nearest galactic trader and find there's like 25 items for sale and in limited quantities, then you're kind of saying, oh, well, this is a bit disappointing. This isn't anywhere close to galactic. So anyway, the solid traders, and again, I haven't used this particular one. The one I used before did indeed add every tradable item in the game to the Galactic Trade System, which was really, really cool, and in much greater quantities, and I found it really neat. One of the later revisions, which I think in fact was the Foundation mod, Foundation update, broke that particular mod. So I had not used it since then, and again, I played just a very little when they introduced Foundation and built a couple bases and all that. Just had a good time with it, and then shifted over to another game. So anyway, those are the 6 mods that I'm running. They do run, but I have not checked to see whether there is any conflicts or anything like that. So I have just literally loaded these games, or these mods, to see whether they work. So let's go into a little more detail on the mods. So one of these sites that I recommend is No Man's Sky Mods. This came out right about the time the game was there, and it's a good site. So literally No Man's Sky Mods, no apostrophe on the mans, and no spaces. So nomansky.com. There is a boatload of different mods out here. Now I do recommend you be very careful, look at the dates closely, because there are the original mods are on the site still. So there are some mods that are absolutely obsolete, will not function at all, may crash your game, not let you play the game at all. So be aware of what the dates are. So No Man's Sky Mods. If you've ever used nexusmods.com, there is a whole bunch of there's a bunch of games represented there. It is another very, very large mods repository. You do have to have a membership. They're both free on either one of these sites. So it's very simple to get in and register. If you can see where I'm pointing the mouse, I know my mouse is really small. So up there about 3/4 of the way across at the top there, you see the login and register buttons. Again, both free accounts. If I remember correctly, you don't really even have to provide a whole lot of information. It's like an email address and everything. So if you prefer anonymity, then probably a fake email address, although I think they do send you like a confirmation kind of a thing, if I remember correctly, but it's been a while since I've done this, so security parameters may have changed a bit. So nomansky.mod, or nomanskymods.com and nexusmods.com, good place to find No Man's Sky mods. Obviously on Nexus Mods, you're going to find a bunch of different games there that you can mod, everything from Skyrim to whatever. So I talked about the Exocraft Scanner Boost. That's this one here. So again, I'm not gonna Nyoko Nyok0 is what it looks like. So anyway, this is version 1.1, 1.0. Sorry, excuse me, I can't read. Dated August 26th of this year. So kind of the description here, it just goes into what you can look for. So it adds the ability to scan for very specific sites in the game. So it looked really interesting, so that's why I put it up here. So the next one here, the Starship HUD revamp. Again, this is purely cosmetic. So what it does is it takes the displays on your ship, which were black and white, so you can see the whole ones here. So just imagine this picture right here in black and white. That's what the original game was. So this adds color to the game, or to those displays for you, which makes sense. I mean, this is kind of a modern setting, kind of a sci-fi-ish setting. So having black and white displays, I mean, we haven't had black and white displays on any of our electronics for a decade. So anyway. This one works really well. This one is an old mod. So you see August 27, more than a year old here, the last time it was updated, but it still works. I've been goofing off with this one, so I think it adds a lot. Now, some of these displays actually are live. The information that they display is live, and that is still exactly the same. So black and white or color, doesn't matter. So all this does is add color things. So I think it adds a much more realistic cockpit environment for your aircraft, your spacecraft, whatever it happens to be. So that's that one. So I talked about dates. Don't worry about the dates on that particular one. I know it works. I've had good luck with that one. Dismantle core components. So one of the interesting things about the technologies as you are building your ships, your crafts, is there are certain core elements, so very aptly named, which are embedded in anything that you can buy, trade, sell, or rape, pillage, or steal. They're just inherently, they're part of this. So what this mod is intended to do is allow you to dismantle those things and move them to a square in the inventory grid form, obviously, as you see on the screen here, where it is, I want to say, convenient. Now there's more to it than just convenience. When you start adding upgrades to different components, they kind of stack on each other, and they put a colorful box around the outside when they are working in tandem with another device, another upgrade, and they add some synergy. If you don't know that word synergy, it is effectively the sum is greater than the additive of the parts. Okay, so your final total is greater than the additive of all the parts together. So we have this weird kind of phenomenon where the sum total gain is more than all of the component parts if you just added them up in straight mathematical addition. So anyway, the idea is that if you see all those little color boxes around, you know these things are cooperatively functioning, and so you add a little bit of synergy to them. But when you attach all of these items that may be actually synergistic between all of them, but you add them so they are physically touching, which is the goal here, the original core element, then that core element also turns that box color. So moving things, your core elements around, becomes pretty important because you want that synergy. You want that little tiny extra thing because any extra is good. So that's what this is all about. Now there's two versions of this. They both come in the same mod, and they tell you about this. There's one that lets you just dismantle, but you have to be careful because it does not include the blueprint for that particular item. So you destroy it and poof, you've lost it unless you have already gained that blueprint somewhere else. So you have to be careful when you use these things. The other version of this is it automatically includes those core blueprints in your knowledge base already. So that's what that's all about. This one has gone through several revisions. I don't know if this is the original version. I do not think it is. I think the Monkey Man version was the original one. I could be wrong about that too. But this has gone through several revisions. The latest one is September 20, so just a few days old here. Here's our commoner. Ooh, I have trouble even saying that. Rare creatures. So anyway, the idea is that it adds more rare creatures into the world. The rarest of the creatures, the most rare of the creatures, are those ones that are unique species, and so you want to find all the rare ones because then you will have you'll find all your species. So here's what the first paragraph here says. This mod is an attempt to make the rare creature rolls of every infrequent distribution more common to make it easier to 100% discover a planet's species without changing the creature selection on a planet overall. Okay, so that's the goal here. It's to help make it a little bit easier for you to find that 100% of the species on a planet. So I'm all for this because, like I said, I just came back from underway. So for those of you who don't understand that term, I work for the Navy, the U.S. Navy, as the case may be, and so my job as a civilian engineer means I'm an insurance policy. So the group I work for, or the the government agency I work for, is responsible for a lot of the technology that is present on our ships, and so it is my job to be the frontline defense, the frontline support to the sailors for those systems. So when everything is working fine, I am absolutely and utterly useless on a ship. So I am there breathing the air and eating the food. That's it. When things break, then I get really, really busy sometimes. So our last adventure was all about, well, hurricane chasing at the outside and really humanitarian aid. So we chased the hurricane in, Irma in this case, and then went down and rendered support. So I was on board to help the sailors do what they do. So I serve those now who serve. So my time of service is quite a long ways over. So I am now 17 years as a civilian engineer, 15, almost 16 in this particular job. So anyway, having babbled about me there, commoner, rare creatures. There, I actually said that pretty well. All right, next one, transfer freight to and from freighters on planets. It kind of tells you how this works, so I haven't played with this, so I don't know exactly how it works, but it says this mod extends the signal booster in its function by a terminal. With this, it's possible to transfer freight to and from the freighter to the ship on the planet. Build your signal booster and start the dialogue to transfer freight. So it kind of shows you a little bit about, so here's the signal booster, how to use it. It brings up a menu, call your freighter captain, and bing! Then you can transfer freight back and forth. So again, haven't played with this one, so obviously I'm not connected when I'm on the ship. So solid traders, so we talked about that. This just basically adds solid traders will make sure traders have everything you need. Now, I hope that's really true. So here's what it says. Don't you hate it when traders never sell what you need? Yes, indeed I do. Well, that stops now. Solid traders will make sure all traders have everything you need. So apparently this is not only true of the galactic trade terminals, which is like what you see on the screen here, but also the NPC traders. So it does say it includes them all. Now there's about 6 different versions of this that all come within the mod. So you pick the one you want and then you move that mod. Obviously I'm not going to go into the detail on how to make your mods work. But so you pick one of those, you move that to your mods folder, and then hopefully it makes it work. Okay, save game editor. Now, some people just like to have fun, and some people have fun hacking the snot out of their game. I've played both ways. I have a lot of fun both ways. So I like to get into a game and just play. For those of you who have seen some of my playing on Space Engineers, you know I just like to go and do it. I like to get focused in and do it. So I've found the save game editors to be very helpful in that. So one of the severe limitations, which is part of gameplay, no doubt, is you start off with a very small inventory, and as time progresses you buy different ships. You expand the inventory, you go out and collect, and just part of the gameplay, part of the adventure is to get that inventory expanded. There have been several save game editors. The 2 that I have used, and I was having trouble finding the other one that I have used in the past, but it was a standalone executable save game editor that would in fact automatically detect your latest save, let you bring it up, and you could change some very core elements to it. I found a newer version in the search for an updated version of the one I used to use, and I found this one. Now the downside to this one, let me scroll down here, and I don't know if you can really see this, but I'm gonna see if I can zoom in so you can actually read the text. Note, Java Runtime Environment 8 is required. Okay, so for those of you who do not want to run Java for whatever reason, this is not the save game editor for you. You might look for that old editor, which does still work, by the way. I've had a lot of good luck with it. It cannot change everything, but the other editor, in fact, hold on just a second. Let me see if I can actually find that editor for you. Go in here, vmods. Sorry, give me just a moment, folks, and we'll see save game. That one might only be available on Nexus. Yeah, I don't see. I'm not sure why. How about if we do save editor? Oh, it is here. Okay, so this one was the one I was showing you here. Let me bring this one up, which is the other one. It has not been updated in a little while. So March 15 was the last time this was updated. So there's a video here if you want to see how this thing works, but it is a standalone, which is kind of nice. And it shows you what is currently editable. Now, there was a few things that were moved here, but if you really get into this whole hacking thing, there is an embedded JSON editor in here, and you can edit anything within the configuration file. Up to and including totally hose your game. Been there, done that. So there's a lot of stuff in those configuration files, so you can get yourself in trouble, but you can actually change a lot of different things. So it just shows you here weapon seed and this sort of thing. The known tech and known products is a bit dated, and the reason why is when they introduced the Atlas mod, some things changed, and this particular save game editor has not been updated. So let me go up here and you can see who made this one. Rexdame. I apologize for not pronouncing that correctly, so Rexdame, if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, please forgive me. So anyway, the latest one here, it is very effective. It's a very intuitive GUI on your screen. Let me see if it actually shows. No, it doesn't. I know it does. I saw it. There we go. There's what it looks like. So these two windows, the player inventory and ship inventory, do not exist anymore. The reason why that is all of that was shifted from the way that was put into the files. So the JSON editor gets into the files and it looks almost like an XML format file. So the way it's formatted is very programming-like, and the different items are added in a very specific way. So it's not like a matrix, and what I mean by matrix is an array of data that changes, and like this slot, which is addressable by X and Y, that's still actually there, but it's called X and Y now. So I know that all sounds confusing and is really nebulous, but anyway, the way it puts your inventory items in is a little bit different now, and so it really kind of made it difficult because those how it does it is consistent. Where it is in the file itself is variable. So it makes programming a GUI that changes very specific things in a file a little bit more difficult because it's not an addressable place. It could be anywhere in that file, and while it's consistent in the order of where it is, the length or the amount of data associated with each of these core parameters changes. So it makes it very difficult in the file to find where these things are. So under the toolbox here, it does have the JSON editor, and you can actually get in and do a lot of interesting things, including changing the seed on your starcraft, your spacecraft, your freighter. You can change the class of your freighter. everything that you could possibly want to do in the game, including completely hosing yourself, you can do in that JSON editor. So that's available in this particular mod. So this particular mod, very, very useful still, even though some of the technologies which you see known tech and known products here in the center are slightly outdated. So, having said all of that, talking about this other save game editor here, is Java based, so you have to have Java to run it, but it is infinitely more flexible. Now, not quite as intuitive, so you have to kind of bounce around to figure out where everything is. But you can actually change your inventory size very, very easily. You can change virtually anything, any parameter that you could change in that JSON editor, you can actually edit within this, and it gives you a GUI. So I found this one to be much more extensive in what you can change, but also you can still screw yourself. So anyway, so a lot of fun. The other kind of neat thing about this one is it is updated for Atlas. So it does include all those new things that the other save game editor has not yet updated. So anyway, Goat Fungus made this one. So awesome work by Goat Fungus. Let's see what this last one was here. Trainer. Now this is another one of those, you can either call it a cheat or whatever, and it all depends on what you're trying to do. Are you just trying to play, or are you really going for the whole survival thing? So as you can see on the screen, this is a standalone executable, and I do recommend, as with any executable, do your virus scan on it before you run it. You never know. I have never had an issue with it, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen to someone else. So this one has been updated. This one has been around for a long time. So there was a version 1.0, and now we're up to version 1.3. So I have not played with this one, but I presumed that it does as the tin says. So as you see on the screen here, you can do all these different things. So that's what this thing is all about. So basically you run this on the side, and as you punch the buttons on your number pad, with possible the addition of your control key or your alt key, then you will enable or disable all of these different features, cheats, whatever you want to call them. So that's what that's all about. Okay, let me get this back out of the way here, and get my main screen back up here. And speaking of cheater, now, the neat thing about the trainer, as it's called, and not called a cheater, I guess, is it will auto-detect when No Man's Sky is running, and detect the process ID, and then it addresses things directly in the game. So, alright, having put all that stuff on the screen, let's get back to the game itself. There we go. Okay, so where am I? And I apologize for having loaded the game in advance, but it does take a little while. It takes 2 or 3 minutes, and I wanted to kind of save you from that. Well, having said that, I'm about a half hour into this particular video. I've just basically babble, and showed you all the different mods and all of that thing. So let me show you one more thing. I told you I wasn't going to do this originally, but for those of you who are wondering what the heck kind of cat that is, that's a serval. That's a little African cat. Servals are known for, well, I'm babbling. So servals, this one was named Jamadari. He's actually quite a few years passed away now. So servals are known for these great big huge radar ears. They can actually hear the ultrasonic sounds emitted by rodents while they're kind of scrambling around underground, and one of their food sources is to dig up the rodents, and that's part of their lunch. So that's what those ears are all about, great big huge ears. So this is basically a double-sized house cat on stilts. Very, very long legs. Very flexible cats. So birds and rodents are their two things. So servals can jump up into the middle of a flock of birds, whack, 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 kill a couple birds out of the sky. They fall down with the serval, and serval has lunch. So very formidable little hunters. So that's a serval. Okay. So I know this is really hard to see because again I'm UHD here. So let me scroll up a bit so you can see where this is. So in this case, mine is actually mapped into C drive. This is not the games folder, is actually another external hard drive that I have mapped into C. So my games, so C is actually a solid state drive. So if you want a game machine to run a bit faster, then using a solid state drive can be to your advantage. But I wanted that for more the operating system and that sort of thing. So games is actually another physical disk. Let me scroll down and I'll actually show you what that is. So games drive here, which I have marked as H. I'll get my cursor out of the way so it doesn't turn to that hideous blue. I like the blue, but so game drive. Game drive is a physical hard drive where all the game's information is, but that is mapped into C. Those of you who are familiar with Windows can do that pretty easily. So mapped into C as the games folder. So even though that's a different physical hard drive, it's addressable in C, which is what I've done here. So it just makes it a little easier. Now to find where these folders are, and again I told you I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this just to wrap up this particular video. So we scroll down here, you see your Steam. No Man's Sky has to run under Steam. Well, there's actually a different version of not a different version, but it runs, I can't even remember what it is, but it's not the Steam version. So there's a different version. The games themselves are identical, but it's one that runs under Steam and one that runs under this other thing. So you're looking for Steam folder, which is wherever you happen to put it. In my case, I put it in the games directory. That way I could actually get it off to my other drive. So Steam, you're looking for Steam apps here. You're looking for common, which is where all of your games actually are located. So this is the game itself. Now there may be some data here, but this is mostly just the game information. So this is unique to the game, not to the user on the computer, and we'll show you that as well. So we go down here and scroll into No Man's Sky, open that up. You'll see a couple different folders. Binaries and game data are the one you have. Save data or save editor in this case is what I created. So I put that save game editor into a folder, and then I call that up when I am wanting to use it. So the folders that you will see is binaries and game data. Game data is the one, all capitalized for you, it's screaming at you there. In PC Banks, which those of you who remember the original game, that was the only folder that was available there. So everything used to be in that PC Banks folders. They moved the mods themselves, which they give you a disclaimer when you first execute the game that mods are not inherently supported by Hello Games. So you use mods at your own risk. I'm not sure why a game would have to have a disclaimer, but hey, I guess everybody sues for everything. So they created this new folder. This was also introduced in the Foundation update. They actually had a mods folder which all of your mods can now go into. So simple. You're looking for No Man's Sky, then game data, PC Banks, and mods. That's where all of your mods, whichever mods you choose, you just dump the pack file into this one. You see here's our 6 files that we talked about. All right there. Okay, your personal data, which is to say your save game information. So in this case, the machine's name here is Smiley, Smiley 2, actually. This is the second iteration of this machine. In here you see a lot of information. You are looking for app data, roaming, and then in this case, Hello Games. So Hello Games, NMS, No Man's Sky, huh? And then this is your save game. So in this case, this crazy little number here is your save game folder. Backups is, hey, backups. So it will keep a boatload of backups there for you. They're all time and date stamped. So as you see, I did most of these as I was underway. So these are just all kinds of backups. The game does this automatically for you. So it gives you access to the last 3 games, but just because it's only the last 3 games doesn't mean you don't have a boatload of games that you can access. So in this case, it keeps the last 3 games, which will be a MF storage and a storage, and then you'll have cache information here. So all of this information here, 1, 2, and 3 is your standard game. 4, 5, and 6 is your survival game. 7, 8, 9 is your creative game. So those are your 3 types of games that are now available to play. In this case, we are doing a normal game. Okay, so not a survival game, but I do have a survival game that I have been playing. So, having said all that, let me get my folder off the side of the screen here, and pull my game back up so you can see, and then we'll there we go, back in frame. All right, with that, we'll close down. This is Get the Tiger signing off, and we'll see you next time.